you see that statue, you know she's somebody you would want to know and that you want to know more about her. And then in learning more about her, you'll find out the story about how she became Minnie Pearl and put Centerville on the map. I'm Mary Beth Pruitt, and I grew up in this house. My grandmother, who lived in the house with us, was a sister to Ophelia Colley Cannon, who later became Minnie Pearl. When Ophelia was born in 1912, she was an afterthought, sort of. They had 4 girls already. When this baby was born, it was like handing them a live baby doll. And they would dress her up and parade her around Centerville, and they taught her to sing and dance and play the piano. And before she was 2 years old, they talked their music recital teacher into letting them put her in the music recital. And they taught her a little song and dance and stuff, and they pushed her out on the stage. And so I think that's when Minnie Pearl was born, right there. That seed was planted. She early on wanted to be a great dramatic actress, but what she wanted was not what she ended up doing. She had to change her dream along the way because she was just a natural comedian. She said at church, they never did put her in the nativity scene play because they knew that she would do something to cause people to break up laughing. She wanted to go to New York and study acting, but the Depression hit, and that really affected their finances, and they could not afford to send her to New York. But they could afford 2 years at Ward Belmont in Nashville. Humor again rescued her because she felt, after she got there, she felt kind of out of place because a lot of these girls were really, really rich. They had the fur coats and the nice clothes, and there she was, the little country person from Centerville. She played the piano well, and so she would play the piano, and then she got in with some girls, and they would joke and they would have a good time. So it all wound up all right. So after she graduated from Belmont, she got a job with the Sewell Company, and they would send these young ladies around the Southeast to put on plays. It was in Sand Mountain, Alabama, that she stayed with this family that became the inspiration for Minnie Pearl. That inspired her to start doing this character, and she picked Minnie Pearl as a name just because that was kind of a country name, and started performing that around. But oddly enough, she got discovered in Centerville performing Minnie Pearl at a bankers convention, and that got her an audition for the Grand Ole Opry, and she performed, and of course after that her career took off. She came back here for all kinds of events. She spoke at high school graduation. She came and performed at things, and Centerville is what made Minnie Pearl.
My name is Jennifer Grisham. I live in Columbia, Tennessee, and I'm a sculptor. I discovered sculpture while I was a junior in college. When I took that class, I knew I wanted to be a sculptor, and I also knew I would not be able to make a living at it. So I majored in psychology and became a social worker for about 11 years, but all the while making sculpture in my spare time and on weekends. And gradually people would approach me and want me to do portraits in sculpture. It just sort of picked up steam from there on.
When I first met with Jennifer, we talked extensively, and I gave her all kinds of photographs to use and talked a lot about Minnie Pearl and her personality.
And I used those to make the first scale model of the sculpture, which is about maybe 12 inches tall. The first thing I did was a no-no when you're making sculpture. I made her hat first. I knew better. I don't know what got into me, but I made the hat. First I made it look like straw. Then I put all the flowers on it. And then I had to make her head look like her and fit up under this hat that I already made. And then I had to make the rest of the figure in proportion to the head. And it was all backward, but that's what I did. The hand that I put out like that, in one of the photographs, she was talking to an audience, and she was telling some big tale, and she had done her hand like that. So I wanted to capture that. So I did that with her left hand, and I had her touching her knee, and the other hand is on her hip, and her head is tilted, which all that movement makes the sculpture much more interesting rather than a Sphinx-like piece.
I could not believe the detail and the way she captured her just with that first little clay model.
And at that point, we decided we would have a few cast in bronze, and that they would sell those there on the square in Centerville. The intent was to raise money to pay for the larger bronze.
For 10 years, we nickeled and dimed, and we got some big donations, and we did it pretty much in the local community. And then, incredibly, all of a sudden, we had the money. Then she created the big clay model over in her studio in Columbia.
I was going to have the scale model blown up. It's called 3D imaging. It's done on a computer. They put the scale they would like to enlarge the piece to. Their machine would cut a block of styrofoam in 3 dimensions. And these were pieces of styrofoam, which when it came here, parts of them were glued together, but not all of them. The first thing I did was paint the styrofoam with an acrylic paint. The separate pieces I started putting clay on, a thin layer of clay, because I didn't want it to get any bigger, and the easiest way to put the clay on was to roll out a thin sheet of clay with a pasta maker. Looking at it, I decided her face looked too large to me once it was life-size. I reduced the entire head, the bun in the back, everything, and then started lay it on, and then you have to finish the surface, preferably with your fingers. And it was a fairly long process because of the ruffles around the neck and the flowers on the hat. Right now, the sculpture is almost finished. I have to add a little bit of clay so that she fits smoothly on the bench, which was provided by the Grinder Switch Foundation, and which she will be seated on in Centerville.
I will never forget the first time I walked in that studio and saw that clay model sitting on that bench. It was just breathtaking. I just was so emotional, and so, I thought, it's her. The tiniest little details, her eyes and the little 4-leaf clovers that she stamped on the top of her dress, and the wrinkles in her fingers and her shoes and everything.
The mold maker from the foundry will come to my studio, and he will make the molds on the clay original as she sits there in pieces.
The mold is kind of captures all of the original, so all of the details are here, and that is sitting in my rubber, hopefully. I'm Carl Palizza. I work for the Inferno Art Foundry, and we're in Union City, Georgia, probably about 20 minutes from downtown Atlanta. I'm a mold maker for the foundry, so we take the original clay work from the artist, we do the rubber mold like the one you see here. I have like 3 days more of mold work to do when I get back, cleaning things up, making things fit better. So this is only the beginning of the mold process. If I make a mistake here, we don't have anything to make a casting of. So if we have a bad rubber, or if I trap a bad air bubble in this rubber, then we have to have repairs down the road. So here all these are here. These are little locks, or keys, to register the rubber to the plaster, so it goes in the right direction. So again, the rubber is there, the plaster holds the shape. We bring that back to the shop, we cast a wax in the rubber mold.
And they will pour the wax, pour it out, pour the wax, pour it out, until a thickness is built up about 1/4 inch. And this thickness needs to be uniform throughout, because where the wax is, that will be the bronze. And if it's thicker in places, those places will not cool as fast as the thin places, and you could get cracking.
We will melt the wax out of that second mold. We will pour bronze where the wax used to exist. and then we will take it, we'll chip off the old mold, we'll finish that metal, we'll weld it all back together, do a final finish, bring the client in for an inspection and a patina.
The day finally arrived. They said they were bringing the statue on Friday morning, and I was so excited. I was so nervous. I don't know why I was so nervous. I guess I thought I was worried that they were going to drop it or something.
We're happy to be here this morning to unveil the statue of Minnie Pearl. This has been a 10-plus year endeavor. As Minnie would say, we're all just so proud to be here.
There she sat on the trailer. And then when they set that down there and I got to sit next to her, the statue is just so much like her. You just expect her to talk. I kept thinking she could just get up off that bench and start walking around and talking and laughing.
She probably was a real hoot. I wanted that to come through the sculpture, where she looks like she's just told some big tale and she's enjoying it and everybody else is enjoying it.
Jennifer was telling us she put that little 4-leaf clover in her hat at the last minute. And then when we were installing it, she found a 4-leaf clover over there right close to where we were installing it.
We can all stand a little good luck.
The really fun part was seeing all the people that all of a sudden started going over to have their picture made. One of the first pictures I saw on Facebook was a little great-granddaughter of one of Opphelia's friends sitting up, hugging her. We wanted this statue to honor Minnie Pearl, but also to inspire people. I want the kids to understand you can make your dreams come true. It might not happen exactly like you thought it was going to happen. Don't consider that a drawback. Consider it an asset.